Okay, we are live. Yep. So, hey guys, so welcome. So, here's a live version of the Practical Wealth Show. I should have sent this out and let people know I was going live on Facebook, but that's all right. We'll hope somebody will find it, and but I'm gonna send it out. But hey guys, so welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show, and so I have a special guest today, Mr. Kyle Christenson, and so Kyle is what is Kyle? Kyle is the author of the great book called Principles Based Planning, and we both teach, or he's taught me, and he's taught me to teach the concept of principles based planning. And what today we're going to have a discussion because I've been getting a lot of calls on Curtis. What about universal life? Can we, because truth be told, they know I'm not wild about it, but we're going to try to have a as unbiased as we can discussion about just basically how it works, and the chassis are different. Like, they're different. It's really comparing apples and oranges. And I wanted to take some time and just kind of review that with folks. But Kyle, welcome back to your third guest spot on the Practical Wealth Show. Happy to have you.
Thank you. Always honored.
As well you should be. No, just kidding. So, so
what I want to point out first off is notice we're both wearing a Jackson Hole t-shirt.
Again.
We did not coordinate that, by the way.
It's funny. We love Jackson. Jackson, the second highest income zip code in the country. And nobody knows where the heck it is. It's in Wyoming, but it's people, but that's where they have the Federal Reserve thing, right? So so we're both doing that. And so tell them a little bit about what we do about principles-based planning first, and our kind of our philosophy, and then we can kind of go into our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So the traditional financial planning approach is needs-based planning, right? So it's needs-based, it's accumulation focused, it's usually based in Wall Street, the stock market, and that's the foundation for planning. So our planning is a lot different than that. Our approach is based in principles, so instead of a person saving based on a projected need for the future, we're saving based on a principle of saving.
Right.
Instead of, dealing with protection in a way of, financial fortune telling and trying to tell people what's going to happen after they die or if they become disabled or whatever, our theory, our philosophy is they should follow the principle of maximum protection, be in the best position that they could be in if those events were to occur. So we follow principles like that, and we have 5 foundational principles that we teach our clients that basically empower them to make much better financial decisions in their lives and put them in the best position they can be in at all times.
Exactly. And so I won't say we're product agnostic, but products. What I always phrase, I say, look, we teach the principles that help our clients become and remain financially free. There are 5. There's strategy. So principles drive strategy, and strategy drives tactics. Okay. And so a lot of people know me, and this is kind of for my Instagram people, as teaching privatized banking. Okay. That's a strategy. Okay, that's one strategy, but the principle that precedes that is you must save money, okay? Because that's where the money comes from to fund it. And then, because if you don't do that, I can't steer a parked car. With me, the principle precedes that is work, right? So you have some money, and then the tactic that fits our principles and strategy is properly structured dividend paying whole life, right? But there's 2 types of, so let's talk about the 3 types of insurance. Let's just lay a foundation, and then let's break it down. This is kind of a walk through that of what we teach our clients, but I think that's a good segue into this conversation.
Okay. All right. Can I share my screen?
Yes. Will it let you?
Yeah, let's see here. Share screen. Okay.
Yep.
Are you seeing my screen?
I am.
Okay. So one of the exercises that we go through with our clients is talking about the 3 types of life insurance. And that's a key component. I think a lot of times people are they're expected to make good financial decisions, but oftentimes they don't really know what their options are, right?
Right.
And
right.
they have opinions about different things, especially when it comes to life insurance. People have opinions. A lot of supposed financial gurus have opinions, strong opinions about different types of life insurance. So
Strong.
I think
is saying it is being polite.
Yeah. So I think what's valuable is to kind of have a discussion about the 3 types without opinions. We're not going to give it a grade, so to speak. We're not going to say good or bad. We're just going to say this is how they are. This is what they do, and go from there. And honestly, I mean, there's only one opinion that matters, and that's the client's opinion. All the other opinions don't matter. It doesn't matter what the client's dad thinks. It doesn't matter what the client's accountant thinks. It doesn't matter what Dave Ramsey thinks. Right. It doesn't change. People's opinions don't change the facts about these types of life insurance. So that's kind of the purpose of this discussion is to say, okay, well, let's talk about them kind of in a as objective of a way as we possibly can, right? So the first question we ask clients is, well, what are the types of life insurance that you know about? And usually they know about term. A lot of times they'll know about whole life, and they'll also know, rarely I would say they know about universal life. Within the industry, universal life is extremely well known, and I would say is probably the more up and coming, popular, kind of trendy topic, right? Type of life insurance. It's the latest and greatest, so to speak, right?
Right.
So with term insurance, what are the moving parts? What makes up a term life insurance policy? Well, a term life insurance policy has premium, and it also has a death benefit. Okay, it's actually probably one of the more simple types of life insurance or types of insurance that exist. When we look across the board at auto, home, liability, life, disability, etc., term life insurance is probably the simplest kind of insurance because there's just 2 moving parts. There's a premium, there's a death benefit. Okay, but there's some things that are associated with the premium and the death benefit that you got to dig a little bit deeper to find out. So we'll ask a client, and Curtis, maybe you can role play with me and you can give me responses that clients usually give. What happens to term insurance premium over time?
It doesn't go up.
Yep. They'll say it goes up. It increases. It increases over time. Now, can you buy a level premium policy for term?
Yes.
You can, but what happens after the level period is over?
It goes up.
It goes up. Now, oftentimes clients will say that it cancels, but that's not actually true. So it doesn't automatically cancel. If you buy a 10-year level policy or 15 or 20 or 30-year level policy, at the end of that level period, the premium is going to increase, and not just a little bit, it increases exponentially. So, not to get too much into the weeds of this because we want to get to universal life, but usually it's a surprise. Even though the insurance company sends a warning in the mail, most people just send their mail to the trash can and don't read it. And so then all of a sudden, the amount that's being drafted out of their bank account for their term life insurance is, more than 10 times what they were paying before. They call in kind of in desperation a month later, after the premium increases. So one thing that's important to note on term insurance premium is that all term life insurance policies, this is true with all of them, the premium will exceed the death benefit, okay, by normal life expectancy. Okay, so what starts out as the lowest, right? It's the lowest to begin with. I'm going to put that in here. Okay, some people will say it's the cheapest. I'll let you decide if that's the cheapest, right? But it starts the lowest. There's no question about that. There's no argument about that. But it increases over time and will eventually exceed the death benefit. Okay. Now, what happens usually when people get that increase in the premium once the level period's over? When that premium goes through the roof after the level period is over, what do they usually want to do at that point?
Drop it.
Yep. So when canceled, what happens to all the premiums you've paid?
They're gone.
Okay, so all the premiums are lost at that point.
I mean, I always tell people the good news is you didn't die, so that's a good thing.
That is the good news.
Right.
That's worth the premium being lost.
Right.
You know? So absolutely. So we're not saying good or bad. We're just saying this is how it works, right? When you cancel the policy, the premiums are gone. You don't get a refund of the premiums because you didn't die. What happens to the death benefit over time?
It stays level, or it could go down depending on the type of
Yep. Generally with term life insurance, whether it's through work or whether you buy a level term policy, it usually is level, the death benefit. So if the death benefit stays level for a long period of time, what's really happening to the purchasing power of those dollars?
The purchasing powers go down.
The purchasing power goes down. And interestingly enough, life insurance actually doesn't insure a person's life or the value of a person's life. It actually insures the value of a person's income, okay, or a value of a person's assets. And what do we hope? What does every client hope happens to their income over time?
We would hope it goes up.
We hope it goes up. So
yeah,
it's an interesting thing. So if life insurance is really meant to insure, if the purpose of life insurance is to insure income, what really should be happening to the death benefit over time?
Should be going up.
We should have it go up because it's not really replacing the income.
And see, so let me make a point for my listeners, right? Because see, so people, I'll ask them, well, they'll call me, well, I need insurance. Well, what is that you want? Well, I just want to leave something, or I want to have enough to bury me and leave a little bit left over. Okay. That is not the purpose of life insurance. It is not to bury you. Okay. The people I'm talking to, right? I ask people, we want our clients to leave a legacy of wealth and wisdom, right? And so if that's your goal, I can help you. That's not your goal, don't call me, okay? And so I always say, look, don't call me, because you're gonna get buried. Insurance is not to bury you. It is, what is it? It's not a need product. None of y'all need insurance. The question is, what do you want?
That's right. It's really about wants, and oftentimes we compare it to homeowners insurance, or to understand the idea of that. Curtis, if your house burns down to the ground, and I know you've got one of your kids is off to college, right? So maybe you don't need her bedroom anymore. If your house burns down to the ground, do you just want all the rooms built that you need, or do you want all of the rooms built that you already have?
I need them all. Because I think they're all coming back.
Okay, so it really, homeowners insurance has nothing to do with what you need. What it has to do with is replacing an existing asset, okay, a real asset. And same thing with all insurances, right? Life insurance replaces a real asset, which is your income. And one of the questions that I like to ask clients is, how much of your income don't you want your family to receive if you die?
Right. That's a good question.
And they always say, well, I want them to get all of it. Okay. So now we understand the purpose of life insurance. And that's the right basis for making a decision on life insurance, right?
Right.
It's not about, well, how much do I need? Because unless you have a functioning crystal ball, you really don't know the answer to that.
Right.
Right. We're not in the practice of financial fortune telling. We're in the practice of replacing assets.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So the death benefit for term life insurance, that's, it stays level. So inflation erodes the value of that, the purchasing power of that over time, especially in years like this. Okay. Now, what happens to the death benefit when you stop paying the premiums?
It goes away.
It goes away. So that's why I call term renting. Okay. Term life insurance is renting life insurance. It's not owning life insurance, because just like with renting, if you're renting an apartment or you're renting a house, as soon as you stop paying your rent, except for during the pandemic, apparently, then you're out, right? And you leave the place. You don't have a roof over your head anymore when you stop paying the rent. And that's what happens with term life insurance. When you stop paying the premium, it's over. Okay, there's no more roof over your head from a life insurance perspective. All right, so that's term life insurance. And by the way, so just so that the listeners don't feel like I'm against term, personally, I think, and from a professional standpoint as a financial planner, I think most people should have term life insurance. Okay, and in fact, probably in a lot of cases, all of their life insurance should be term.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's a temporary situation. Term is temporary, right? That's why the name is term. It's for a period of time. And so what's the long-term strategy? What's the best long-term strategy for insuring, especially if the purpose is to replace my income and my assets? Okay.
Yeah. And so let me say this. So you all should have, both Kyle and I, when working with clients, all of our clients have term. So there's no debate. So people say, should I get term or permanent or term? It's not a debate. You need both. Okay. So if your goal is, I need the most insurance for the least amount of money, you get term. Okay. And so usually it's a blend. So you all need term insurance. Don't to hear me. All right. When we say this, so your term is part of the plan. You just need to know how it works. See, we're financial educators, right? And so this call is to teach you how money works. And so as we break it down, you've got to understand the different types, because what I'll hear a lot on the clubhouses and on the Instagrams is, a lot of people just talking because it's their product du jour, but they don't even really understand how the contract works. So that's the purpose of having this discussion. So go ahead. That was my
no, I think that's a great point. And I would just add to that, when a person dies, the beneficiary doesn't care at all about the type of life insurance that it was.
Right.
They don't care about that. There's only one thing that they actually care about, and that's the amount of coverage. How much are they going to get, right? And so that's why for us, we're not saying that everybody should have term insurance. What we're saying is people should have their maximum protection.
Yes.
Right. Now, however they get there doesn't matter to us. Honestly, we don't care. And even when we talk about universal life, guess what? Universal life will pay the death benefit when you die. There's only one thing that you have to prove, and that's that you're dead. Right. That's it. And so it will pay out. Whole life will pay out. Term will pay out. You provide a death certificate when as a beneficiary when your spouse passes away, and that's it. Right. And they don't need anything else, and they will pay. So again, it's not about the type so much when a person dies. It's really about how much they're going to get. So in most cases, people can't feasibly get all of their life insurance as whole life insurance. That's why Curtis is saying, most people should probably have term. Maybe some of them should have all term, right? Depending on their situation.
Yeah.
All right. Just like people can, rent, but is renting the long-term strategy that you want?
No.
Most people would say no. Most people want to eventually buy, because why? What do they get when they buy a house? And we're talking about the home you live in.
You get equity.
You get equity. Okay. what happens to all of your rent when you're paying rent? How much of that do you ever get back?
None of it.
None of it. So you lose 100% of what you pay in rent over time. And what are the chances that when you buy a house that you're going to lose 100% of what you pay for your house?
Very slim.
Yeah, slim to zero, right? I mean, unless they, put a nuclear waste site next to your house, then you're probably going to get your money back, or the majority of your money back, or even more than your money back. In most cases, because of inflation, when you buy a house, you're going to make money, especially if you stay in it for more than a few years.
Right.
So that's the difference, right? Same thing with term and whole life. So the reality with whole life is, do people really know much about whole life other than certain financial gurus don't like it?
No, not at all.
Usually all they know is that
They think it's expensive.
Yep, and they'll say so-and-so says not to buy it.
And it's not a good investment, which we agree with.
Okay.
It's not an investment at all.
Not a good investment. Okay, it's very expensive, they'll say, right? Okay, what else do they know about it, Curtis, at that point?
That's about it.
That's about it. They may know a few other things, right? That it lasts your whole life. Okay,
yeah.
So that's where the name of it comes from, is that it's unlike term, right, which is a period of time.
They may know the price doesn't go up. The payment doesn't go up.
Yep.
Doesn't increase. Mm-hmm.
And the premium is level
for your whole life.
Yep. For life. That's right. So it lasts your whole life. The premium is level for life. Okay. And that's about it. They may know, some clients know, that there's something called cash value in the policy, or they'll say a kind of a savings, right? But they don't know a whole lot more about it. Okay. So we're gonna just do what we did with term life insurance. So let's start with premium. So the premium is level for life, and because the premium is level for life, how would the insurance company, if they know that they can never change the cost, they can never change the premium over time, how are they going to price this compared to term that they know they can increase over time?
They're going to price it higher because they have.
Yeah, they're going to price it higher. In fact, it's the highest to begin with. Out of all the types of life insurance, whole life insurance premium is the highest to begin with. But there's a reason, and what's the reason? Because they can never change it.
They can never change it, right? So you can't just play around with it.
Yep, they can never change it. So that's why the premium is the highest to begin with. Now, here's the thing with whole life. Is the premium going to exceed the death benefit ever?
No.
No. It's never going to exceed the death benefit. In fact, it's only going to ever be a portion, right? It's going to be a percentage. If you pay for whole life, if you started when you were 30 and you paid for it till you were 80, you're going to probably pay a third of what you get in the death benefit. Mm-hmm. Maybe even a little bit more, but it's going to be a lot more. The death benefit will always be significantly more than the premium paid. Okay. So let's go back to why do people want to buy a house? Because they build what? Equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's essentially what cash value is. So cash value is money. It's really a savings, right? But it's money you have access to at any time for any reason. Okay, so as the cash value builds up in the policy, which it's remarkably similar to money that you put in the bank. So if you put $10,000 in the bank, are you going to have access to $20,000?
No.
No, so it's pretty proportional, right? You put $10,000 in the bank and you have access to about $10,000. So whole life insurance is a little bit different than that because there's a death benefit, right, that we're going to be talking about here in a second. So some of what you pay in premium goes towards the death benefit, And over time, by far the majority of what you pay goes into the cash value that you have access to at any time for any reason. The cash value will exceed the premium paid. And that's based on contractual guarantee. Okay, so that's going to happen. So let me ask you this: if you put $1 into a bank account, how much did it cost you?
Upfront, nothing.
Nothing. Why didn't it cost you anything? Even though you put in $1, why do you say it didn't cost you anything? Because you have use of it, right?
Oh,
you can
use.
pull it back
Right.
out. Okay. So same thing with the cash value of life insurance, or that's what with whole life insurance. When you pay your premium, you'll eventually have access to all of the money you pay. Okay, not right away. That would be too good to be true, right? But you eventually have access to all of the money you put in there, and you can use it for what purpose?
Anything you want.
Any purpose. Okay. So, all right. So eventually, if the cash value exceeds the premium, what's the cost of whole life?
It's really nil.
Yep. So contractually, the cost eventually for whole life will be zero. Okay. Now somebody might say, well, there's an opportunity cost to whole life. Okay. Well, why is that false? I mean, is there an opportunity cost? If you put money in your bank account, is there an opportunity cost? There actually isn't, because opportunity cost happens when you can't use your money for a better opportunity, right? So something comes along, let's say Curtis sees a duplex he wants to invest in, right? If he has the money in the bank, is there an opportunity cost, or can he use the money to get the duplex?
I can use the money to get the duplex.
Yep. So therefore, there's no opportunity cost in that. Now, if that money was stuck in a retirement plan, or if you paid excessive taxes that you didn't need to pay, could there be an associated opportunity cost for those?
Yes.
Yeah, because you have no access or use of that money. Okay. But when people say there's an opportunity cost with whole life, they don't understand this part right here, that you can use the money anytime for any reason. Therefore, there cannot be an opportunity cost.
Right.
Okay. So, all right, we're getting there. Are we getting there fast enough, Curtis?
Yeah, we can. Here's the other thing. I don't know if we're going to talk about this. And so we're just talking about straight whole life, not how we structure them for what we call maximum efficiency, where you get, you can get 50, 60 cents of the money first year in the cash value. So that's a different discussion. But when we're talking about that, so for the strategy that I teach banking, then we're talking about, so right now we're talking about the 3 types. So you have a foundation, and then getting into the practitioner is how to structure them right, which Kyle and I both do. And so now let's keep going, and then let's get into.
All right, I'm just going to add a couple things onto this, and it's important, I think, that we're talking about these kind of in a little more detail, because then you're going to understand universal life better.
Yes.
Okay. Because if we just go straight to universal life, what do you compare that to, right?
Right.
And so I think you've got to understand how term works, how whole life works. Then you can get a clear understanding of how universal life works, and how it may or may not fit with the strategy that you want in your plan. Okay. So cash value is tax-free and penalty-free. So you can use it even before age 59 and a half, tax-free and penalty-free in the form of policy loans. And we're not going to go into a bunch of detail on that right now, but policy loans are a great option that you have with life insurance, not just whole life, but universal life. You can borrow against the cash value instead of just withdrawing it. Now, you can also withdraw it if you want, but that's called a surrender, and that means you can't put it back in. Okay, so if you invested money into a duplex and you want it, and you got cash flow out of it, okay, you can't put that cash flow back in the policy if you withdraw it. But if you take a policy loan, it's tax-free and penalty-free, and you have the ability to put it back in the policy to be able to use again in the future for other opportunities. So that makes life insurance really a unique financial tool, right? There are actually no other financial products in the United States that let you have access to more than what you put into it, tax-free and penalty-free, before age 59 and a half for any purpose.
Right.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about the death benefit real quick. Oh, and I do need to point out, with the cash value of whole life insurance, there are no other costs. So I have to say that because with universal life, there are costs that come out of the cash value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With whole life insurance, there are no costs that come out of the cash value. Okay. So we'll hit on that in just a little bit more. So the death benefit, what happens to the death benefit of whole life over time?
It tends to go up.
Yep. It increases. And what causes it to go up?
Dividends.
Yep. EUAs, paid up additions that are from the dividends usually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if, like we're saying right now, like Curtis said, we're just talking about a basic policy. We're not talking about how we can enhance everything. We're just saying if you choose the dividend option to do what's called paid up additions, your death benefit's going to increase over time. And not just a little bit, it increases substantially. So going back to that 30-year-old who buys a whole life policy, if it's $1 million when they're 30, by the time they're 80, it's going to be more than 2 million. Okay. So it increases substantially. Again, term life insurance, the death benefit stays level. Here's another thing.
Let me ask something here. If you're watching this, right, and you're like, well, what is this other thing that is specially designed? there's another video on this channel called Intro to Banking, where we discuss that, or I have a more detailed version where I go into properly funded. Right now, we're just giving you a high overview of the types, but I'll put a link in the show notes at the end to where you can reach out to me directly and we can talk about it. But this is really for informational purpose, because people don't get this detail about insurance, and that's what we wanted to cover today.
Yep, exactly. I mean, people are usually basing their life insurance decision on opinions or nice round numbers, or
because we say people are, and you say in your book, most people are marketed to, they're not educated.
Yep.
And we want to, you need facts so you can because products you buy should be a result of your knowledge, not a substitute for it.
Great point. Yep, I love that. So these facts about these policies, again, the only opinion that matters is yours as the client, right? And so, how can you use this? It's kind of, none of these are good or bad, right? It's can they help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish? That's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Right. Is one more effective than another over time? And that's what we've got to look at. So death benefit, one more thing that's unique about whole life death benefit is that you have something called reduced paid up insurance. Okay. In other words, a lot of times what people are afraid of when it comes to whole life insurance is that they have to pay the premium for their whole lives. That's actually not true, because with whole life, every time you pay your premium, you're purchasing part of the death benefit that you never owe money on ever again. Okay, so what you can do at any point in time in the future is you can change your policy. You could reduce the premium even down to zero. Okay, and you're still going to have a death benefit. Is that going to happen with term life insurance if you change your premium to zero?
Absolutely not.
No, it goes away. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So with whole life, it's the only one that you can reduce the premium to zero and you're still going to have a death benefit. Is it going to be the same death benefit as the one you had when you were paying the premium?
No,
that would be too good to be true, right? So what happens is the death benefit will be reduced to the amount that you've paid for, and it's always more than what you've paid in premium. So there's really only one way you can possibly lose money in a whole life policy. And what's that? By canceling the policy.
Right.
Okay, if you cancel the policy, especially early on before the cash value exceeds the premium, then you're going to lose money. But you don't have to do that. You can change the policy to reduce paid up, and you will not lose money if that happens. The cash value will continue to grow. It will exceed your premium paid. The death benefit will be more than what you paid. Okay, usually multiple times. Okay, so That's a nice thing to point out. All right, let's talk universal life. Oh, and because let's go back real quick. Because whole life, because as you pay your premium, you're buying part of it. We call it owning, because you really are buying the life insurance, and you own it. And
Right.
there are no when you change it to reduce paid up, if you ever do, there are no costs that come out of the cash value. They don't pay the premium by using your cash value. At that point, there are no additional costs, period, at that point. All right.
See, that's so important. So the reason why we lay this foundation, because we're going to show you how these contracts work differently. Okay. So yeah, so let's talk about this.
All right. So universal life also has a premium, and it has a death benefit. And usually there's not a ton of opinions out there. I mean, I would say probably most of the people who are opposed to whole life are also opposed to universal life. The financial gurus out there, they just want you to buy term. So universal life is interesting. It came out in the 70s, and it came out because, you know, there are a group of people that don't want to pay the premium for whole life, right? Because it's the highest to begin with. And they don't really want term. So they want something that's going to last until the day they die, right? But there's a few issues. So if you're a life insurance company and you're selling $1 million death benefit, okay, you have 3 different policies, $1 million death benefit for each one of them. What's the only way you can charge a different premium? Why can they charge less for term life insurance than they do whole life?
One, you're not getting all the benefits. What was the statistic? Only 2% of all term policies ever pay a claim.
Yep, exactly. And what's going to happen to most term policies when the level period is over?
They're going to lapse. People are going to
cancel
because they can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So they're pretty much squeezed out of the policy before they reach normal life expectancy. So on average, people are going to cancel their term, and they buy it knowing that, right? They buy term knowing, hey, I'm not going to keep this forever. I'm going to drop it because at some point in time, supposedly, I don't need it anymore, right? So they know that. But so the only way that
which is a myth, by the way. Okay, so that we call that the myth of self-insurance. And there are some people, I used to teach this with my former company. They used to call it the theory of decreasing responsibility. That's a whole other, we're not even going to go there today, but it's a myth. That's once you understand estate planning, you never not need insurance. You know, let me just leave that at that. So let's keep going.
and you never, once you understand the purpose of it, you never don't want to have it, right?
Correct.
It's not really about needs. It's about wanting it, and which is the best way to, you know, help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. Okay. Yeah. So going back to the answer to the question, how does the insurance company charge a different premium for the same amount of death benefit in 3 different products? Well, the only way is because the life insurance company has a way out. Okay. So if they're gonna say, yep, for this $1 million for a whole life policy, we're gonna charge you X amount of premium, and we can never change that premium, and this is guaranteed to pay out no matter what happens in the stock market, in the interest rate market, etc. This is going to pay out as long as you pay the premium. Then this is the premium for it, X, right? To be less than X, there has to be a way out, right? Statistically, they know by the law of large numbers that most people are not going to keep their term life insurance policy to normal life expectancy. In other words, they're not going to die owning this or still paying for this policy. Okay, and so that's why they can charge less for it there. Well, what about universal life? It's a lower premium, lower required premium than whole life, which is appealing to people, right? It sounds good because it's still supposedly permanent. Okay, I'm going to put permanent in quotes. Okay, it's a permanent life insurance policy. But again, what's the only way that the life insurance company can charge less? They have to have a way out.
Have to have a way out. So we say the way out is for the insurance company, not you for you. Okay.
Yep. The insurance company has to have a way out from their obligation, a caveat, a condition, right? And so we're going to talk about the caveats and the conditions related to universal life and how can they charge less premium? How can they require less premium? Okay. So they call the premium flexible. In fact, a lot of times on the policy itself, it says flexible premium universal life policy. Okay. And flexible sounds good to people, right? I want flexibility in my money because if things happen, right, life happens and throws me a curveball and I have to pay for some unexpected expense, then what do I want to do with this premium on the life insurance? If it's flexible, I want to lower it. Yeah. Yep, I'm going to lower it. And so guess what? If most people, when they buy this product, if they have the choice between paying the required minimum or a lot more if they want, what are they going to choose most of the time?
Not more.
The minimum.
The minimum, right?
The minimum, because how many people want to send money to the insurance company, unnecessarily? So they're not going to, right? So they actually pay the minimum. So it's actually, as we talk more about this, you're going to see that it's the flexibility of the premium that causes this policy to fail sooner than it probably would have otherwise. Okay,
which is human nature,
It is. It's just human nature.
We have a video, and if you go to the podcast, we have a video where we talk about the tendencies that keep people stuck financially, right?
Yep.
And it's our natural instincts that hurt us, and that we're marketed to, and that feed into that, and that's what hurts you. So you kind of got to do the opposite of what is considered conventional wisdom.
Well, think about it just from your own personal health standpoint, right? What's our natural tendency? It's not to exercise. It's not to lift weights. It's not to run a mile. We want to sit and eat junk food, right?
Right.
But it's bad for us.
Right.
Same thing with money, right? The things that are, natural tendencies for us when it comes to money really hurt us usually. So yeah, that's a good podcast.
Yeah.
All right. So the death benefit, what happens to that? You have a choice. You can choose option A or option B. And option A says you can have the death benefit. Your beneficiary can receive the death benefit. Option B is your beneficiary can receive the death benefit plus the cash value. So if that's all you knew about it, which one would you choose?
B.
Yeah, everybody in their right mind would choose B based on only that information, right? Now that actually comes back to haunt people because what B also means is that you're going to pay the costs of the whole death benefit your entire life. Okay, so now that I put it that way, which option sounds better? Do you want to pay the cost of the whole death benefit your whole life as it increases, or do you want to pay for less and less?
Less and less.
Okay, so people, if they knew more details, they'd probably choose option A, but they usually choose option B because it sounds like it's more, right? Now, with whole life, you don't get that choice. It's just the death benefit, okay? And so some people will say, well, then what happens to the cash value? The cash value, the real definition of the cash value is the amount of death benefit you have access to while living. Okay, that's if you think about the cash value that way, you're thinking about it correctly. Okay, and what that also means is if the cash value, which is contractually guaranteed to equal the death benefit by age 121, which seems a long ways out, right? But it's contractually guaranteed to happen. That means there's less and less death benefit that you're paying for over time. A whole life policy from a cost perspective becomes more and more efficient over time. Like a jet plane, right? If you're flying on an airplane somewhere, the least efficient the plane is ever going to be is when it's taking off, because it's full of fuel, right? It's the heaviest, it's working against gravity, right? It's just all power trying to get up to the elevation that it needs to, or the altitude that it needs to. But over time, every minute that goes by, that airplane is getting more and more efficient because it's getting lighter. It's using wind currents. It's using gravity as a benefit, right? Instead of against it. Right. That's what whole life does. Same thing. Okay. Universal life doesn't work that way. All right. Universal life is really a term policy with a cash value. Okay. And we know that that's true because of what happens in the cash value. There's something called monthly cost of insurance. And the monthly cost of insurance looks something like this. Okay, this is an actual client of mine. This was a page out of this client's policy, universal life policy, okay, back in 2005. All right, she was 28 years old when she started this policy. It was 2005, and you can see the cost, the monthly cost of insurance, or in this case, the annual cost of insurance rates, was 69 cents per $1,000 of coverage. Okay, what happens to that cost over time?
It goes up.
It goes up, and not just a little bit, right? So she was 28. So let's go out to 78. Okay, let's go 50 years down the road. So we're going to go to 2055. That 69-cent hole at the bottom of the cash value, right? The costs that are coming out of the cash value increases from 69 cents to $52.53. So think of it in terms of, there's a hole in this bucket. We're trying to fill this bucket with water, and the hole is only this wide, 69 cents, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many times bigger is this at 2055? It's $52.53. How many times is that going into that? Let's see. I'm going to do a calculation. So 69 cents, and actually I'm going to go $52.53 divided by 0.69. That increases 761%. Okay, over time. That's pretty big. That's actually more than that. It's more than 700%.
And so they all work like this.
Yep, they all have this page, and everybody who's ever bought a universal life policy that I've ever met with didn't even know this page existed in their policy.
Well, it's like 100, and I just went over it. One of my clients, it was like 168 pages in the policy, and then even the illustrations are 50 pages, 60 pages. Yep. A whole life policy is like 11. 15 if we want to add a couple extra slides in, but and a policy, whole life policy, is maybe 45 pages, 50 pages, the actual contract, because it's simple, because there's so much. It's that old saying, this is a perfect example of the bold print giveth and the fine print taketh away.
Yeah.
All their outs is what it's talking about. And so the internal cost, this is why when people talking about it, I said, listen, they're different. You can't compare them, because whole life gets more efficient. But as you can see, the mortality charge or the cost of insurance, because it's built on a term chassis. What happens to term? Every year mortality charge. Every year you're older, the closer you are to dying. So the cost, you buy insurance by the 1,000, like you buy potatoes by the pound or gas by the gallon, and the actuaries make that up, and that's built in. And so they're transferring, and we'll go into this. You got me hyped now. Transferring the risk to you. Okay. Where in whole life they keep all the risks, but the risk is transferred to you, and that's all right if you know it.
That's right. And how many advisors, how many insurance agents that sell this product go into this, or do they downplay it? Even if it's brought up, they downplay it usually and say, well, these are the maximum, and it's never going to be the maximum.
Right. It's never going to happen. But it is still a contract.
Yep.
Right?
And I'm going to show you an actual letter, a copy of a letter from a real client. And let's see if it never gets to the point where it's a problem. Okay.
Right.
So here's the thing. In every universal life policy, it says, if the cash value is insufficient to pay the monthly costs of insurance, your policy will lapse with no value. Okay, that's what they're telling you in every universal life policy. It says that. Well, guess what? This is a big difference, right? What costs come out of the cash value of whole life insurance?
None.
None. There are no costs that come out of the cash value of the whole life insurance policy. This statement right there, if the cash value is insufficient to pay the monthly cost of insurance, doesn't exist in a whole life policy because the monthly costs of insurance don't exist in a whole life policy. Okay, this page right here, this page does not exist in a whole life policy. So that's not an opinion, that's just a fact, right? And somebody might, they can say till they're blue in the face that those costs will never get to that high. But I'll tell you, if 2020 has taught us anything, what has it taught us? That the unexpected can happen.
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't plan on that. Nobody planned on that happening that I knew of. No financial planner thought the pandemic was going to happen 10 years ago. They never put that in the plan, right? So the problem with what the advisor says and what the contract says is who wins?
The company.
The contract.
The contract.
Okay. So the advisor has no power to change this contract or determine what the insurance company is going to do. The contract tells you what the insurance company can do. Okay. And it goes back to, how do they price this differently than whole life? Well, there's got to be a caveat. There's got to be a condition, right? And the condition is this: if the cash value is ever insufficient to pay this cost, the policy is going to cancel. And guess what? It usually happens when you're older. Okay. So this is an actual client of mine in Oklahoma that got this letter. He had a universal life policy with Modern Woodman. This is 2013 when he got this letter. He had this policy. He started it in 1989. So he had been paying for this for a long time, right? This should be, you would think more efficient, but that's not what happens with universal life. It becomes less efficient. It's like term, right? And so he got this letter, and the letter says, at the non-guaranteed illustrated interest rate, in other words, at the current interest rate and the current insurance costs, not the maximum, the current. Okay. Mm-hmm. Your certificate, your insurance will expire on July 1st, 2030 at your age 75. So there's a lot of problems. And it says, let me keep reading this part. This expiration date is based on you continuing to pay your $30 monthly, your premium. Even if you keep paying your premium, this policy is going to cancel when you're 75 years old. Okay. What's wrong with that? Think about that. What's wrong with this? So first off, this client didn't even know this was possible because nobody had shown him this. So he didn't know that that was even possible in the universal life policy. Okay. Then what's another problem? If this expires at age 75, what happened to all the cash value?
Yeah,
it means
it's
gone. What this means is the cash value is gone. At this moment in time, 2013, when he got this letter, he had over $9,000 in cash value in this policy. And what this means, this letter is saying that cash value will be gone. It will be eroded from these costs. Okay, and it will be gone by his age 75. How easy is it for him to get new insurance when he's 75?
Not very
easy. So that's the big problem, is when do these policies expire? When do they fall apart? The insurance,
too late. The agent may have retired, or if it's fun, one of those part-time multi-level deals that's their primary product. They ain't going to be in the business. I shouldn't say it that way. A lot of times they're not in the business. 2 years from today or 6 months from today after they do the thing. Now, here's what you'll get. And this is a pushback I'll get. But Kyle, this is, because there's 3 types of universal life: fixed, variable, which is truly the devil, and universal life, right? And so, but you don't understand. My projection says I'm going to have this money. I can pull it out tax-free. And, the stock market always goes up, doesn't it? And so I get the ups of the market without the downside risk. I had somebody just show a contract that their IUL was up 13% or 16% or something like that. And it's all based on performance, which takes us back to our premise, back to the principles of velocity of money over accumulation. So this is still a accumulation strategy. Like you're hoping you're putting some money where, and you're hoping interest rates or the market will go up, but it's not really designed for utilization, even though you can take policy loans against it. So let's talk about that. You're probably going to get to it, but I'm thinking about the stuff I hear as we talk about it.
So that's a great segue into this, because universal life, there's no type of life insurance that has changed more over the last 50 years than universal life, right? We've seen more and more versions. I mean, Curtis, you just mentioned several of them, right? Universal life started, then later it was variable life. They added that, and that was the coolest thing since sliced bread, right? And then it was equity index universal life, right? And all of that kind of stuff. And so now we've had all these changes. Why are they changing? Well, it's because the previous versions didn't work out well. That's why. Okay, that's why they're changing. And during that entire time frame, whole life basically went unchanged, right? And term life insurance basically went unchanged, other than they added level periods, right? But that was it. Like, there's not a lot that changed with those two products, but with universal
life. So
like
whole life, it's like 200, 150, 200 years old, right? And it's proven to work through depressions, through world wars, through all kinds of stuff. When banks failed, insurance companies were fine. Okay, so where do you want to store your cash? Okay, and I told people, like, I'd rather bet on actual world science than Wall Street any day of the week.
So the latest thing is, well, we need to have some kind of guarantee on the death benefit, because this is true. If the cash value is insufficient to pay the monthly cost of insurance, the policy cancels, right? So people don't like that. They don't want to get that letter in the mail when they're 75 that says that they're going to lose their coverage, right? So insurance companies are smart, and they said, oh, well, let's kind of appease them, and let's put on what's called a no lapse guarantee. Well, the problem with the no lapse guarantee is that most of them are like 10 years. So if you're 40 when you buy this policy, when does the no lapse guarantee come off?
50.
When you're 50, you're not even close to dying at that point, right? So the no lapse guarantee, now they do have some that, even the most recent ones, I've seen some that go to age 121, the no lapse guarantee. But the no lapse guarantee is conditional. Okay, and everybody knows what conditional means, right? So if you go buy a house, your obligation to buy the house is conditioned, right? It's conditioned on passing inspection. It's conditioned on appraisal. It's conditioned on qualifying for the loan. It's conditioned on a bunch of different things, right? Homeowners insurance. You have to have homeowners insurance. Okay, so those are all conditions, right? So this no lapse guarantee is not unconditional. It's conditional every time. Okay, and the condition can be as simple as, if you change your premium, if you change how you're paying your premium, if you're paying by monthly automatic withdrawal and you want to change it to annual, guess what? The no lapse guarantee comes off. Okay, or vice versa. I've seen it that picky, right? I've seen it in the policies where they say, if you change your mode of premium, the guarantee comes off. I've also seen where it says, if you use the cash value, if you borrow against the cash value, or you withdraw cash value, the no lapse guarantee comes off. There's no guarantee at that point. Okay. So here's the thing. If you're using cash value, if you're getting universal life because you want the death benefit to be permanent, and you want the ability to use the cash value because supposedly it's going to make more money than a whole life policy, right? What's the problem with that? Can you have both?
Well, you're told you can, but that's the question.
Right. But again, does the agent get to decide what's in the contract, or does the contract determine?
The contract determines.
The contract determines. So the contract says, if you use your cash value, then the no lapse guarantee comes off. That means there is no guarantee that you're going to get the death benefit. Okay. That means that if the cash value is insufficient to pay the monthly cost of insurance, your policy will lapse with no value, which that phrase is in every universal life policy. Okay.
Even index.
Yep. Yeah. It doesn't matter. So index and variable just tells you where the cash value, or how the cash value is invested. Okay. But the the basic foundation, which is what we're talking about here, doesn't change.
Right.
Those are still the same. So, if you have a, Ford Mustang exterior and you put a VW Bug engine in it, what is it?
It's it's still a Mustang, but
No, it's a VW Bug,
VW.
right?
Okay, right. Because
It doesn't matter what the exterior looks like. It's going to run like a VW Bug,
right,
won't it? It will even sound like it, right?
The engine,
Yep.
The engine is term plus a side fund. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what you put on the outside of it. It's still going to have these issues, the same issues that caused the problems in the past. Universal life is a maybe. That's the best we can say about it. It's a maybe. And when it comes to life insurance, do you want it to be a maybe, or is that part of your for sure plan, right? And I would say that when it comes to protection, which is what life insurance is for mainly, I don't want it to maybe be there. I want it to for sure be there.
Yes.
And that's the difference.
Yeah. That's a huge difference. I mean, it's they're hopefully y'all seeing their apples and oranges. Okay. And because a lot of times what you see is you'll see a lot of projections, but based on past performance. Okay. Looking back, dating, they love the backdate stuff. Okay. Well, here's what the S&P has done since 2000, but in the same breath, they'll tell you what past performance is no guarantee of future performance. Well, then what the hell did you put it in there for? Okay. It doesn't mean anything. Okay. Because the future, like that, nobody predicted COVID. Now the market is tended going up, but it's going up because of monetary policy, not because of anything good going on in the market, and there's so many external factors going on. One of the things that we always teach is investing is not about buying something, it's about becoming something. And so too many people, I think, are putting too much faith into a flawed product that they're sold, but they don't really understand how it works. So we're hoping in this video is we're trying to just give you, Kyle has been really good at being relatively unbiased. Y'all can hear the bias in my tone of voice, but he's very cool. That's why I brought him on to do this. And but he says, he feels the same way. He's just cooler, about this stuff, and more chill. So what else are we? What do we? Because think about. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I think that's it. If you understand these, and you decide, hey, I still want universal life. Okay. But at least now how it works. And that's and then you can have I think people get upset with financial advisors or the products that they have because their expectation is here and what it's actually going to do is this.
Yeah.
Right. And so the expectations and what it's going to do don't meet. And so what I want is my clients to have the right expectation for what these things are going to do, right? Instead of surprises, right? I think that's the thing people don't like about the insurance world is surprises, right? They don't want to find out at the time of claim, oh, well, this isn't going to be covered, or that's not going to be fully replaced, or whatever, right? And when it comes to life insurance, if you buy a universal life policy, just know that these things are in there. And if you want to use your cash value, then you may not have a guarantee on your death benefit anymore.
So when you say, let me break out that part right there, use your cash value. So is that taking policy loans even if you pay them back?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is that instantaneous that you borrow the money and you pay it back immediately?
No.
So what's happening during that time that you have borrowed the money? This is happening. Monthly cost of insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those things don't pause just because you're using your cash value, right? So it could be during that time. I mean, in some of my own whole life policies, I've taken cash value loans for periods of 3 years and not paid a dime of it back during that time frame. And then I pay it back after 3 years, right? So what's going to happen here, especially if you're older, right? mean, it's conditional. That's the thing that you have to know. And the no lapse guarantee, they don't care if you pay that back. It's not like, okay, when you borrow the fund, there's the no lapse guarantee comes off, but then when you put it back, it comes back on. No, it's permanently off if you take that out.
What about, so here's the other strategy. Again, this is all I call it a Roth alternative. And so people talk about tax-free retirement and using wash loans or arbitrage or pulling money out of the IULs tax-free. And so you can stop paying and then you can live off of these policy loans. And we both think that is ultra risky. In my mind, that scares me to death when people say that stuff, even with whole life, actually.
Yeah. I mean, whole life doesn't have monthly costs of insurance like this, but what it does have, when you take a policy loan, you have interest that's attached to that policy loan, and that interest, if you don't pay it, gets added to your policy loan. Well, if your policy loan exceeds your total cash value, even in whole life, the policy is going to cancel.
Right.
There won't be any value in it anymore. Okay. And so, the idea of just constantly taking policy loans and never paying them back puts you in danger, right? It makes it so the policy could cancel. And here's the thing that most people don't realize. Let's say you followed that idea and you took $100,000 per year in policy loans, for the next 10 years or 15 years. Okay. So you've taken out $1,500,000 of policy loans out of your policy. Let's say 500,000 is your basis. That's how much premium you put into it. And it's done really well. You've gained a lot of money, a lot of value, right? But now your policy cancels because you've borrowed this money out and now the policy is going to cancel because the cash value is either insufficient to pay the monthly cost of insurance in the case of universal life, or the cash value is insufficient to add the interest on the policy loan in a whole life policy. Okay. Well, the policy cancels. Guess what? You owe taxes on $1 million.
Yes.
And where's that money? What did you do with it over the last 15 years? You lived on it. It's gone. So now you have a tax bill on $1 million of income that you have never paid taxes on. Okay. How are you going to do that? There's actually a great article from a long time ago that I've got that talks about what's called the surrender squeeze, which has everything to do with universal life policies. And it talks about how people get in that position and then they can't let the policy cancel because then they're going to owe this ginormous tax bill that they can't afford. And so it's actually the lesser of two evils is that they continue to pay the premium, and the increasing costs.
See, so now what we've been going into is the product. There are different strategies associated with that product, but once you understand some of the fundamentals of the product, you can see where we say some of these strategies, in our opinion, are risky because they're fundamentally flawed, and there's no certainty. So you want to build your economic, or what we call your personal economy, on certainty and guarantees. Okay. And then so because here's the thing, you don't need the insurance. See, a lot of people I was showing, they're showing, this like I do infinite banking, right? So it's like you can do this with infinite banking. This is an Instagram conversation I had, right? But that's the whole life is old fashioned. This works better. We just had a contract that did 12%, but you're focusing on rate of return, right? But you're not looking, when you look at a whole life illustration, you're not looking the fact that you had a client that took a down payment to buy a real estate property. What's the ROI on investing in your business or buying a course or whatever? That's not illustrated in a policy illustration, but that's what you're doing. So you need to take risk in things you understand, and we use whole life as storage. And also we don't use universal life because if it's not guaranteed, then it violates our third principle, which is guaranteed forward placement of assets at death. So that's the other reason why I don't use it. For the those of y'all wondering why. It's so many different things about it once you break it down. So that's why I'm glad we're creating this educational recording that we'll have out there that you can just know So it's like, you're grown. So wherever you want to get, you're going to get. You're going to do, because we're financial educators, and our whole goal with principle-based planning is giving you a choice and helping you decide. Now, most people, when they see that, they want whole life. Once they understand how it works, so it doesn't cost me anything, and it's guaranteed, it never goes up. No, I think I want the one in the middle. But if you choose something, all right, just know how it works.
Yep.
I'm probably not going to sell it to you. You got to go to somebody else. I mean, I have access to them, but because it violates my principles. I don't want to get that call when you're 75, because I've gotten those calls from other people, and they've gotten that live at the same level. I've got guys, these young insurance agents, this and they're looking at an illustration, right?
Yep.
A promise. Okay. I want certainty. I don't want, illustrations. Illustrations are just that. They don't mean anything. They're just projections.
Well, it goes back to your point of longevity. Like, how long has whole life been around, and do we have a record? Do we know what whole life has done under various circumstances, right? This universal life, equity index universal life with no lapse guarantees, do we really know how that's going to perform? I mean,
Not really.
If we're showing projections of 30 years down the road in illustrations, I mean, these products haven't even existed for 10 years.
Yep.
So a lot of them.
And so the companies love them because, again, it takes all the risk off of them. They have there's nothing guaranteed because they have ways out. So that's the thing. Whole life. And so, to be specific, what Kyle and I both specialize in is properly structured dividend paying whole life with a mutual company, right? And so, for very specific reasons, but they've been around. They're not stock companies. We're the owners of them, and they think differently. They're thinking like 100-year time blocks. They're much more conservative, all that stuff. Whereas if you're stock, you got to look at court 6 month or 3 month. You got to appease the real owners, which are the shareholders, right? In those companies. And so, the major one thing Nelson Nash talked about with whole life is, or with insurance or banking, he says the 3 rules of banking are think long range. And so most people suffer from short-term thinking. That's the number one problem I see. Don't be afraid to capitalize, which means pay a premium, and don't steal the P's, which is pay your loans back. And because you finance everything you buy. So the opportunity cost of paying cash, when you pay cash, you finance it. So if we can store it as, when you look at the strategy associated with the products we just talked about, which one gives you the ability to have your cake and eat it too? I call it creating velocity through simultaneous use, where I can make $1, the same dollar, do 3 or 4 jobs all at the same time. There's only one product that we listed that gives you the ability to do that. And so that's, we believe, should be your foundation.
Yep.
Anything else, Kyle? So I love this. I think this has been a good, good lesson. I've
got to go, but what we want is for people to just be empowered. Curtis said we specialize in properly structured whole life. I think what we specialize in is teaching people principles and empowering. We specialize in empowering clients to be able to make the best decisions for themselves, because we believe in our clients. We believe that our clients are smart, that they can make the best decision if they're given all the information, right, that they need to be able to evaluate their choices. And unfortunately, the financial services world doesn't do a good job of teaching, of educating. They do a terrible job. They just try and convince you based on numbers and projections. And there's only one thing right about all those projections and all those calculations, is that they're going to be wrong. They're never going to be exactly that. That's the thing that's right about it.
That's right. So so we're gonna end this. Kyle, thank you so much for breaking this down for us. And guys, go out there and do some homework. If you reach out, like, subscribe, hit the button. You're gonna see this on YouTube, so I want y'all to hit the subscribe button. And when this comes out on the podcast, make sure you like it, you share it, and we're gonna have this up there as an educational resource and go out there and make it a great day. Thanks for another episode, the live episode of the Practical Wealth Show. Kyle, thanks again.
Thank you.